Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would talk about this video and the subject that I found to be very particularly interesting. And of course, a lot of people are talking about this topic as of recent because of the Ryan Garcia ordeal. And Ryan Garcia, of course, he's been on the part of controversy now for the past several months, ever since he's been going live on Instagram. And then, of course, there was the Devin Haney situation and a multitude of other things as well. But of course, this this recent situation about Ryan Garcia pretty much has, topped, been to the top shelf, or pretty much takes the cake. Of course, Ryan Garcia, for those of you that did not hear, he said very derogatory things and very reckless and careless and offensive things, of course, recently about a multitude of demographics, including that of the Muslims and also that of the black demographic, especially that of the American black demographic, I believe. But the reason why I wanted to review this video is because Dante's Boxing Nation, of course, is going to talk about it. And the reason why I wanted to review a video by Dante's Boxing Nation is because, a video that I did not too long ago, where I reviewed a video by that of John Boxing Pound for Pound the Best, and I had the title, I believe, in that headline where I stated that are black fighters being overrated or disrespected? And a lot of people, of course, they take a look at my headlines or they take a look at the titles of my videos and they don't even watch the video, or at least not the full thing. And I get it, some of my videos can be a bit longer, but you have to watch my video for the full thing to truly understand what I'm actually trying to state. And what that video was to talk about both what the LDBC and new media are truly about in terms of their double standards and their biasness, but it was also to talk about a certain amount of the double standards and, of course, racist rants or racial, double standards that black American fighters especially, or black fighters, do have to go through. It was talking about both sides of the coin, but of course a certain amount of people, they didn't necessarily end up watching the video to the fullest. The reason why I wanted to do this is because Floyd Mayweather Jr. was recently asked in a conversation, I believe, or in an interview, and someone ended up bringing up the Ryan Garcia conversation, and Floyd Mayweather Jr., he stated that he had no interest to talk about that whatsoever, and that do not bring that negative energy here. I'm here to talk about my fighter. I'm here to talk about overall, positive things here. Do not bring that overall to the sport, or do not bring that to me. And honestly, I thought that that was the best way to handle it. And, Dante's Boxing Nation, he wants a lot of these black fighters and a lot of black fans, of course, to speak up about, quote unquote racism. Some of them, when he claims to be racism, some of them, somewhat, not reliable. That's not the right word, but some of those cases are valid. Some of them maybe not quite as such. Of course, this, case of racism definitely is very valid. But Floyd Mayweather Jr., in my view, handled this situation perfectly, and I'm going to kind of explain why. And within this video, not only am I going to explain my thoughts on the situation, but I'm also going to explain why I believe that Floyd Mayweather Jr. handled it to the best of his ability, and also why you cannot rely on certain commentators like Dante's Boxing Nation, Boxing Ego, or certain guys like the LDBC or new media, because they are way too much inside the victimization mentality. And I've been stating this for a very long time. And, when I reviewed a video by John Boxing Pound for Pound the Best, I believe that he reacted to my video and he stated that there's a difference between being a victim and playing a victim. And somewhat to a degree, yes, but you also can be a victim and still somewhat play the victim. We're all going to be victims of things. The question is that do you have the ability to move on, and do you have the ability overall to keep doing you? Of course, there is going to be certain limitations that some of us have to go through. But do you look at yourself in terms of a higher standard than the majority of people out there? And how much energy are you really putting into those people that apparently don't like you? That's what I thought that I would talk about. But anyways, let's get into it. Let's see what these guys have to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I mean, yeah, do racism go on within the sport of boxing? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Ryan had a big 4th of July week himself. I don't know if you got a chance to see how his Twitter feed was going.
Oh, no. You're not going to get me involved in that. That's not my thing. I'm here to talk about Camille. I'm here to stay positive. Talk about Camille, what my fighters do, and about me helping my fighters, and me being positive, talking about family, on Mayweather Promotions. And that's what I'm here to talk about. Something negative, I don't have nothing to do with it.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys?
And Floyd Mayweather Jr., in my view, actually handled that situation very perfectly. Now, the thing is with Dante's Boxing Nation and a lot of these, super pro blackity black channels, is that not only do they like to attack certain fighters, of course, that they feel they have to tear down that are non-black fighters, but if black fighters or black fans or black commentators do not fit into the quote-unquote code that they want them to fit into, and please beg over all the other demographics to like us, and don't let them say things about us. Who cares if the other demographics say something about you? All they're doing is showing their true actual colors. Why are you so concerned about asking overall other demographics to like you? They've already proved to you many times, as you have already stated, that they don't like black fighters, or that they don't really care for your fighters. And I'm not stating once again that that's everyone out there, or that that's every boxing fan. But at the end of the day, listen, do certain black fighters have to go through certain double standards, or do they go through certain, of course, racial motivations or narratives? Absolutely, no doubt about it. That's why many black fighters are called boring. Even if another fighter of a different demographic may have a similar style, they're criticized overall to somewhat of a higher degree, at least by certain people, when it comes down to it. And of course, there's also the truth that many black fighters are definitely rooted against, even if they are from that own country, especially American black fighters. Many Americans of other different demographics, they do root against that of black American fighters, even if they're from the country, of course, and they will root for more of the foreign fighters. Of course, there was the Sergey Kovalev versus Andre Ward example, the Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Canelo and Manny Pacquiao example, Steve Von Fulton versus Naoya Inoue. Yes, of course, that ends up happening, no doubt about it. There is certain double standards. But Dante's Boxing Nation, what he likes to do is that he wants to hold these people accountable, which of course it's always important to hold people accountable, but it gets to a point with Dante's Boxing Nation and some of these other channels to where they get to a point to where they beg overall to pretty much have the same standards. And at the end of the day, let these people show who they actually are. If that's what Ryan Garcia actually believes overall about the black demographic, then let him pretty much just expose himself and pretty much hang himself by his own tree. All right, it is what it is. But Dante's Boxing Nation, the reason why he's never going to be a reliable commentator, at least in terms of being logical and objective, is because he actually cares a little bit too much about what the other demographics personally have to say about his race and overall about his favorite black fighters. All these LDBC and new media channels want, all they really want is for the other demographics to truly love and appreciate their black fighters and give them fair and equal treatment, which of course is something admirable. That's something that, of course, a lot of people should want to strive for. But at the end of the day, when that demographic or when a certain amount of boxing fans prove to you already that they're not for your fighters and that they're not going to like your fighters no matter what, you move on and you stop wasting as much energy within those demographics. Who cares what Teofimo Lopez or Ryan Garcia have to say truly that much? Of course, you can commentate on it and hold those people accountable. I'm not stating that you don't commentate on it. But when you focus way too much energy and you try to state overall that we as black people, we have to, make sure overall that, we don't stand for this and that, we have to make sure that that these guys aren't going to say anything more about us. Who cares? At the end of the day, all they're doing is showing you their true character and what they truly think about you. At the end of the day, does it really matter if those people say it behind the scenes or if they say it in public? If that's who they are, then that's who they truly are. Don't worry about what they're going to state about your demographic. What they believe is not important. What is important, in my view, is the goal, which of course is to cover black fighters or cover fighters in a better light in general, in a more logical or objective light. The reason why Dante's Boxing Nation and Aki TV and Boxing Eagle, the reason why these guys are never going to be great commentators in terms of being logical and objective is because they have so much emotion and so much racialized energy because of some of the pain that they had to deal with because they want the other demographics to like them. Whenever I take a look, overall, at my pound for pound list, or whenever I'm predicting a fight, I never base it off of racial motivations. Never. Never, because I hold myself to a very high standard. And that goes for any of us. For any of us that hold ourselves to a very high standard and want to be accomplished and successful, you can never compare yourself overall to other people that you find overall that get involved in that stuff, whether it be the racism or the racialized stuff or over emotionality. At the end of the day, you always have to look at yourself with a very, very high standard. That's what leaders do, and that's what logical and objective people do. I'm not concerned overall, when I take a look at predicting a fight or when I'm breaking something down, I'm not concerned about what Devin Haney has stated overall when he stated that I'll never let a white boy beat me, or I'm not concerned overall about either Teofimo Lopez or Ryan Garcia when they stated something about the black demographic or black fighters. Or when, other people may say certain things as well. That doesn't concern me because what I'm here to talk about, of course, is that of a fight. Now, of course, I do talk about racialized double standards, but that needs to be talked about because a big part of the reason why Dante's Boxing Nation and Boxing Eagle, why they try to tear down certain fighters like Canelo and Usyk and Inoue is because they don't want those fighters to be remembered as all-time great because they have so much bitterness. And all they really want, once again, is for, certain Caucasians and Latin fans to really just acknowledge how many great black fighters there are. At the end of the day, that's never going to happen with a lot of those boxing fans. It just is what it is. And that's a big part of the reason why Dante's Boxing Nation is always going to have a racial agenda because as 78 Sports TV once upon a time said, they're not giving our fighters respect, so I'm not going to give their fighters respect. And that's up to you. But then just don't sit here and tell me that you're a logical or an objective commentator. Because anyone who's an objective or logical commentator doesn't focus and doesn't rank things or analyze things based off of what other people think about their demographic or their fighters. They don't give a shit. It is what it is. Now, don't get it twisted. Can you, of course, bring up the double standards? Can you, of course, bring up, overall some of the unfairness or the biasness? Of course, that ends up happening against black fighters. Absolutely no problem with that whatsoever. But what you should not be doing, at least if you're going to be a logical or an objective commentator, is lower your analyzation standards overall because of an emotional or a racialized issue because other people are doing that as well.
So, I don't expect anyone.
And even Champside, for those of you that remembered me doing a Champside video probably, a few months ago or anywhere from that when Alicia Baumgardner, a black female boxer, one of the top pound-for-pound girls, Champside basically stated that, I'm going to leave her on my top 10 pound-for-pound list. And I am biased because many of you guys are biased, and that's fine. But then just don't sit here and tell me that you're about the truth and that you're about logical or objective commentary. What you're about is to get back at the demographic that hurt you so badly. That's why you can never, ever, ever, ever rely on Dante's Boxing Nation or a lot of these guys ever for logical or truthful commentary because so much of their commentary is always going to be based on how can I get back at that demographic? How can I tear them down the same way that they've been tearing us down? And that is not a logical or an objective commentator. It just is what it is.
To be Muhammad Ali today, but I find it so amazing that when Muhammad Ali, when he spoke up for what was right, he knew that he stood to lose everything, losing his boxing license.
What Muhammad Ali actually did was very admirable in my personal view. Much more admirable than what Dante's Boxing Nation or some of these other guys are doing. What Muhammad Ali actually told his specific demographic and race is that, listen, a lot of these guys, they don't like us. They're not going to like us. They treat us like shit. So why are we trying to appease them for? Ali was a part of, he was a part of a organization that, of course, was really trying to empower that of the black demographic and his own people. And the way that he was trying to do that is to say, we don't need them. We don't need to ask them for apologies. We don't need to beg them for us to like us. We don't need them. If we're ever going to be empowered by ourselves, we need to not focus on them. We need to focus on ourselves, overall, and basically move on from them. And Floyd Mayweather Jr. has a very similar ideology. That's why when this guy said, well, let's talk about the Ryan Garcia, he said, no, you're not going to drag me into that. I'm here to talk about my fighter, Carmel Moulton. Who I want to promote and who I want to put in a better light. He's a fighter that I'm trying to grow, and I want to talk about the positivity of me growing my fighter. I am not going to shift the energy into someone else or into something negative so I can bring the energy away from my fighter. So I agree with what Floyd Mayweather Jr. did, but Dante doesn't understand the mindset of what Floyd Mayweather Jr. was trying to do.
Which was his 9 to 5. That's how he made money. So he was willing to lose everything for what he stood for. The crazy thing today is these black boxers, they have nothing to lose, and they're still reluctant to speak up. They acting as if they did something.
And that's why whenever also there's a black fighter, like Jamal Charlo, or the Charlo brothers, or Shakur Stevenson, or Andrade, or any one of these fighters that comments and give positive overall critique or state that Canelo is the #1 pound per pound or that these guys are great fighters, Dante's Boxing Nation is so upset because he's saying, why overall would you give them compliments? Why would you give them positive affirmation? They're not giving us positive affirmation. So why are you giving us positive affirmation? Because those guys don't give a shit overall really what they truly think. I mean, they might to a certain degree, but they're not stating that overall because of the basis or the mindset overall of the, I have to completely stay on code or I have to completely put out a narrative based off of what they completely think about me. They're not thinking about that. You know, they're some of the best fighters in the world. They pretty much, you know, pulled their bootstraps up for themselves and made their own career. They're not concerned about a lot of that shit. I mean, some people are overall, but fighters like Mayweather, he's not concerned about that. He knows that probably a lot of, you know, other people, they don't like him overall because of his demographic, or, you know, overall they don't respect him, but Mayweather's not worried about that. And that's why I respect Floyd Mayweather Jr. to a great degree, and some other fighters like that. But Dante's Boxing Nation cannot handle, once again, certain guys, you know, giving compliments to Canelo Alvarez or calling them great fighters. That's why he attacks Shakur Stevenson and some of those other guys whenever they state that. And he has to state that, oh, you're a coon, or, you're selling out your own people, blah, blah, blah. You know, Aki TV basically stated that, you know, Shakur Stevenson sold out his people by stating that Tyson Fury would beat Muhammad Ali. Well, is that really selling out his own people, or is that really just having an independent mindset? That's up to him. Now, if you don't believe that Fury would beat Ali, that's up to you. You don't have to agree with Shakur Stevenson, but at least respect the man's opinion. This is a very big problem overall with this demographic, overall within that of America, or at least that of certain minority demographics, which is that they claim overall that they want to be so empowered, but anyone that has an independent mindset, they attack immediately. And Dante's Boxing Nation is a very big problem. Even though I think that he does some positives, he also brings some negatives to the table. And that's why a certain amount of fighters eventually have, you know, have mentioned him in a negative light, like Shakur Stevenson. Because at the end of the day, he threw Shakur Stevenson under the bus because he could not emotionally handle Shakur Stevenson giving credit to Tyson Fury or some other fighters. Because Dante's Boxing Nation, once again, he's looking at it and basically saying, why would you give them credit? You know, they hurt us. You know, we don't want to give them any credit. Right, then don't call yourself a logical or an objective boxing commentator, because that's not what you are.
Wrong. You see, what Floyd Mayweather doesn't understand is once someone asks you this question, they ask you about Ryan Garcia, and you say nothing, silence is saying something. It speaks volumes. But Floyd Mayweather is the one that pioneered.
You are correct. Silence is stating something, Mr. Dante's Boxing Nation. And what Floyd Mayweather Jr. decided to state was that I am not going to have any part in this. I am not here to talk about Ryan Garcia or what that buffoon said. I'm here to talk about my fighter. That's what I want to focus the energy on. He wasn't worried about promoting overall Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia right now, at least at the moment, I don't believe is any longer one of his fighters or in his gym. He was worried about promoting a young fighter without a career mold. And Floyd Mayweather is not worried about what stupid shit or overall what stuff that Ryan Garcia said.
Olympic-style random drug testing in the sport today. The reason why people are getting caught today is because of Floyd Mayweather. If Floyd Mayweather
Absolutely
never implemented random style drug testing, Ryan Garcia and many other fighters would have never got caught.
And let me also state this. Dante can bring up all this shit about Devin Haney, being cheated because Ryan Garcia was on PEDs. Devin Haney's on PEDs as well. Anyone that's with the snack program is on performance-enhancing drugs. The man, the guys work with Victor Conti, who is one of the top suppliers in the world of steroids. At the end of the day, the guys are on steroids. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, do I believe that the win should have been overturned? Yes, because at the end of the day, Devin Haney was not caught on steroids and Ryan Garcia was. So the same standards have to be applied. But if you're asking me personally, it was pretty much on an even playing field. Of course, Ryan Garcia, he had the 3 pounds, so we can't say that it was 100% even and even. But at the end of the day, if Devin Haney was truly supposed to be one of the top 5 pound-per-pound fighters, in which he almost made my list last year, I believe that I had him number 6, just slightly below, Tyson Fury, I believe, who's number 5 on my list, and then he should have been able to beat Ryan Garcia. He should have never been able to got knocked down 3 separate occasions. The 3 pounds, in my view, was not that big of an advantage to the point to where that should have happened. And on top of that, Devin Haney is on PEDs anyway.
And yet, for some reason, Floyd Mayweather, he was pretty much just as quiet when Ryan Garcia cheated as he is right now. This is the strangest thing, but I'm telling you right now, this definitely empowers racists like Ryan Garcia.
No, actually, it doesn't empower racists like Ryan Garcia. Actually, you're empowering Ryan Garcia more than what Floyd Mayweather Jr. did. How you empower a wildfire is that overall you give it more trees or you give it more oxygen basically for it to spread. That's how you empower a wildfire. But if you want to not empower a wildfire, guess what? You cut it off. You give it no more trees. You put a water on it. So basically, what does that mean? You kill the conversation. And that's what Floyd Mayweather Jr. did. And that's why, once again, I think that what he did was a way better handling of the situation than what Dante's Boxing Nation did. Now, don't get it wrong. It's of course important to talk about these conversations at times in the state that, see, this is why we should not care overall what a lot of these guys have to state overall, because they're truly showing their true colors. And of course to state, some of the double standards that black fighters have to go through. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But once again, in my view, Floyd Mayweather Jr. handled it in the perfect way possible, which is to not talk about it, or at least overall, at least for him, Floyd Mayweather Jr. was not there to talk about that situation. He was there once again to talk about his fighter, who was on the undercard, I believe, of the Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal boxing card. That's what he was there to talk about.
While you guys remain silent, racists like Ryan Garcia get louder and louder. The more respect you...
Let them get louder and louder, Mr. DontaesBoxingNation. At the end of the day, does it really matter? Does it really matter if Ryan Garcia or Teofimo Lopez, if they truly state something that's that overall is racist overall behind closed doors, or out in the open for everybody to hear? At the end of the day, they're showing what their true colors are anyway. Who cares? Why are you asking Ryan Garcia or people to check these guys overall to not say it? At the end of the day, DontaesBoxingNation, even you yourself have stated that you don't believe that a lot of these guys, that they state racist things behind closed doors. You've said that yourself. So does it really matter if Ryan Garcia or Teofimo Lopez say it out loud or not? Basically what you're saying is that, hey, you can disrespect us behind our back, but don't you dare overall disrespect us, overall in front of our face. Who cares? You don't have any association with these people anyway. It's not like they're your neighbor. It's not like overall they live in the same apartment complex. At the end of the day, who cares? Let them expose their true colors.
Show these racists, the bolder they get. I really don't understand some of these fighters. With Floyd Mayweather, you seen the clip I played for you guys at the beginning. When he was just sitting on stage, all of a sudden out of nowhere.
Now, of course, one might make the point that, well, if these guys, quote unquote, get bolder, then it might even mess up the rankings even more, or it might mess up this, it might mess up that. But, once again, Ryan Garcia doesn't have anything to do with the rankings. So, I mean, maybe someone might make that point to where it would even lead to, worse rankings, or it would lead overall, to once again, even some of these commentators even getting bolder or bolder. And that's when, it's guys like me who have to commentate on certain commentators like DontaesBoxingNation, or maybe Larry Merchant, or maybe some other guys, if you believe that they're racially motivated, to talk about the sport of boxing and say, what, they're not professional enough, they really shouldn't be having that type of job, or they really shouldn't be in that position. Then I somewhat get it. But what Ryan Garcia said, really, in my view, really should have not affected as many people overall as what it should have been. Not necessarily because it wasn't offensive, but because who cares what Ryan Garcia has to say? At the end of the day, all he's showing you is his actual true colors, if that is what he actually believes. Who cares? Let it be overall and focus on other stuff. Don't get it twisted. Once again, it is important to someone commentate about it. But DontaesBoxingNation, a lot of these guys, once again, that's why they are so biased and so racially motivated in their commentary, because they are so hurt and they just want equality overall from a lot of these guys. It's not going to happen. It is what it is.
He admits that racism does exist in the sport of boxing. But then once Ryan Garcia comes out and proves that and says the most racist thing we've ever heard any boxer say, now Floyd is saying, I'm not going to talk about that. I don't want to talk about it. Y'all not going to drag me into this. It just doesn't add up. At the end of...
No, it does add up, Mr. DontaesBoxingNation. It's just that you like the drama and you like overall defeat into this, because what you really want is the other demographics really to hug you and basically state that, we really appreciate you guys and we're sorry for, many, many decades and centuries overall that, we've mistreated you guys, and, let's all be equal and be hand in hand. It's not going to happen. At the end of the day, the other demographics, or at least some of them, once again, and whatever race or whatever demographic you are, whatever you are, you have to always look at people overall kind of, I'm not going to say with a side eye, but you have to be very careful who you allow in your life. You have to be very careful, because certain people, once again, after a while, they'll show you kind of what their true nature is. So once again, if Ryan Garcia, if he, if this is in fact his true nature, let it be. It is what it is. But DontaesBoxingNation, of course, it's important to talk about it, to somewhat of a degree. But I just think that DontaesBoxingNation and John Boxing Pound for Pound the Best and a lot of these guys, they just focus way too much energy on it, and it gets to the point to where, once again, it affects their analyzations and it affects their logic and objectivity. So it really affects, once again, how they analyze situations, because they get way too emotional,
Today, Floyd Mayweather is considered arguably the best fighter ever. But why wouldn't you also want to be remembered as being on the right side of history? A closed
because Floyd Mayweather Jr. doesn't give a shit about appeasing people overall. Once again, he doesn't really care about that. Floyd Mayweather Jr. cares about growing whatever he wants to do, his own business, supporting the fighters that he wants to promote, and helping out young black fighters especially, or young fighters that he finds to need help and support and, you know, advice and techniques. That's what Floyd Mayweather Jr. is focused on. He's not focused on any of this stupid shit.
mouth don't get fed. The reason why Muhammad Ali, he had so many other black...
You hear what Dante's Boxing Nation just said there? He said overall, a closed mouth don't get fed. What is Dante's Boxing Nation telling you right there? I need Caucasians and I need these other demographics overall to love me. I need them overall, once again, you know, to give me an apology. I'm not going to feel competent about myself if I do not get an apology. That is that is not what Floyd Mayweather Jr. overall is focused on. And once again, in a perfect world, of course, every demographic and every race, of course, you know, they would be fine and fair and just, but it's not going to happen like that. At the end of the day, once again, a lot of boxing fans have already proved that they are not a fan of black American fighters. It is what it is. You know, you just have to roll with the punches. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. Of course, does that mean that, you know, overall that you don't talk about the double standards? No, of course not. But at the end of the day, what Dante's Boxing Nation just stated there was very revelatory. And when I reviewed that video by John Boxing Pound for Pound the Best, a lot of people misunderstood. You know, John Boxing Pound for Pound the Best said the reason why Boxing, you know, Realist is doing this is because, you know, these are the types of people that don't want to be held accountable overall for racism, you know, blah, 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 all this other bullshit. No, no. The reason overall why I commentate overall about this is because when you, you know, once again, cut off certain ties or cut off certain people that don't really give a shit about you or are not worth your time, guess what? You empower yourself. When you are so worried about what these other demographics are going to say about you, you empower them. That's the problem. You know, so Dante's Boxing Nation, whether he realizes it or not, he's giving overall a lot of those racist fans much more energy because he just feeds into them way too often. And don't get it twisted, once again, it's important to talk about certain things, especially biasness, especially when you're talking about the rankings or talking about a conversation about how great an athlete is or how great, you know, this person is. If we're going to have a debate, all that is fine. But once again, Dante feeds way too much into this energy. And that's a big part of the reason of why it also affects his rankings. That's why he can never admit possibly that Canelo is debatably at one time the #1 pound for pound fighter, or that Fury once again is one of the better heavyweights of the generation, or that Usyk is #1 pound for pound. He can't do that because in his mind, he's always trying to settle a score with the other demographics.
American athletes to come out and support him is because Ali, he wasn't afraid to speak up. Floyd Mayweather would be the first person to tell you that he's the all-time face of boxing. But if you have that kind of power, then that means you can say something and other people will listen to you. Everyone will listen to you because of your status. So if Floyd Mayweather were to stand up first and speak up against this, then a lot of other people are going to follow. All he has to do is take advantage of that dangerous weapon, which is that microphone and that camera. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. Let me tell you guys.
But anyways, that's pretty much about it for this video. I just thought that I would talk about that because a lot of people, whenever I talk about this conversation, they don't understand what I'm trying to say. You know, when you feed into this stuff, once again, you empower a lot of these racists overall that much more. You cannot let it affect you that emotionally. You cannot let it affect you, at least if you're going to claim to be a commentator like Mr. Dante's Boxing Nation or myself here. I never let overall what anyone says racially, you know, or in that sense, I never let it affect overall my, you know, analyzations. I'm here to break down a fight. I'm here to break down a pound for pound list. I'm here to break down, in my view, how great some of these fighters are and what they bring to the table. Now, whatever they do in their personal time is their business. Does that mean that maybe they're not, you know, possibly good people? Of course, you know, it could potentially mean that they're not good people. But that's not really what I'm concerned about. What I'm concerned about, once again, is breaking down the art of boxing. And what I'm concerned about, once again, is that when it comes to certain commentators like Dante's Boxing Nation or other guys who actually review the sport and have an impact on a whole lot of people, you know, then, of course, you know, then I have to talk about it a little bit because I like to put things in their proper place. Because many people, of course, try to come out with double standards or narratives in order to change the actual history of a situation. That's what I'm here to talk about, you know. And of course, you know, the racial narratives, you know, I'll talk about them every once in a while. But in a proper context. But anyways, I just thought that I would talk about that because I did not talk about this conversation as of yet. But anyways, the next video that I'm probably going to review is by that of Fight Film. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.